Okay.
Obviously,
Bit of dead air there.
Obviously, you can edit all of this.
Whether I will or not is another story. Well, hello, you cool cats and kittens. Can you tell I've just watched Tiger King? Crikey, what a mad ride that is. Speaking of mad rides, welcome to the inaugural episode of the Jamie B. Sings podcast. Hopefully it won't be quite as mad as the tale of Joe Exotic and his friends and enemies, but we'll see. So I want to thank you all for being here, and I hope this intro finds you all as well as can be expected given the current circumstances, the world in a state of lockdown and all. Now, I just want to give you a quick disclaimer off the bat that I wouldn't expect too many episodes of this podcast. It's going to be pretty sporadic at the best of times, just as and when I have an idea that I like and have the time and patience to run with, really. So it's not going to be weekly or probably even monthly, just once in a while, a little gift wrap treat for you. So, on to this week's podcast. What can I tell you? Well, it centres around a conversation I had with my good friend Matthew Frederick. If you don't know Matthew, then do check him out. He's a very talented solo musician who's also in the band Climbing Trees, who have done a couple of great albums over the years and have been nominated for the Welsh Music Prize and all sorts. But Matthew is about to release a solo album. In fact, by the time you listen to this, he may have already released it on April the 4th, 2020. But I met up with him in January of this year. It was actually his birthday coming up, and I went to South Wales to see him. And it's a bit of a long story, but essentially my van broke down actually on the Severn Bridge, which was a pretty shit afternoon, as you can imagine. But it did culminate in Matthew himself picking me up and taking me the rest of the way to South Wales, where he lives. And so we were avoiding the B roads, so as to avoid the Friday traffic. I ended up interviewing him just on my phone, so excuse the quality. And we talked about the album. We talked about Climbing Trees. We talked about the Hindsights, which is the band that Matthew assembled for his solo exploits. And we talked about music and all sorts. We even talked about BT vans and that kind of thing. So I do hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you the other side of this madness. Bye. Just thinking a little disclaimer to add to that. This should be obvious to you, but just in case. The conversation, of course, took place at the beginning of January, and it's now the beginning of April, and a lot has happened in that time, so there may be the odd thing left in where we reference a date or something, and things have obviously changed. The album is still coming out on the 4th of April, so go check it out, y'all. But the album launch show has been rescheduled to the autumn, and there may be some other things where we're talking about timescales, which have obviously kind of changed somewhat, but just take it all with a pinch of salt, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Bye. Hello and welcome. This is B Roads with B Sings. I'm here with Matthew Frederick, who has just announced his forthcoming album, Feeble. What's it called?
Feeble. Fragments.
Fragments.
Close
Beautiful.
enough.
Beautiful. So how many fragments will this album appear in? Just the one large fragment?
One large fragment, yeah.
Okay. So that's incidentally the name of the tour, I think. One large fragment.
Just one gig.
One gig.
Do you want to explain to the listeners where
I suppose I should really, yeah.
and why we are?
Well, I don't really know where we are. We're off-piste somewhere.
Continue straight onto Ringland Way.
We're on Ringland Way. We're on the B roads to avoid the traffic. It's a Friday, so there's a lot of traffic elsewhere, but not here, baby, because we're on the B roads. So this is B Roads with B Sings, the first of many.
Okay.
The inaugural episode.
We're picking up pace. Let's go again.
Pace. We can go. So what can you tell us about Fragments?
I think it's my best album yet.
Including Climbing Trees albums?
Well, I wouldn't want to say that. Well, no, yeah, yes. Yeah, it's better than Climbing Trees.
Fair enough.
I don't need them. I don't need them. Never have.
Well, I mean,
Never will.
on a serious note, that could be argued. I mean, if you think about what's that quote about an artist being in a continuous state of becoming, you know, like even it's not to shit on climbing trees, but you know, it's been 3 years since your last Climbing Trees album.
We've been fairly unproductive over the last.
Well, no, what I'm saying is like. It stands to reason that you would have grown as an artist in that time, and no doubt the other boys have as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Exit the roundabout
there's obviously elements of Climbing Trees in this record as well.
One fragment of Climbing Trees.
One fragment, yeah. And I'd like to think it's distinct.
A little thorny branch.
300 yards.
I'd like to think it's
take the second exit onto
distinctly me though as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's more representative of my sound now compared to records I put out in the past. It's my first release solo for 5 years. So.
And your first studio solo album.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's almost like
exit the roundabout
a fresh start in a way.
So, what made you release Live at Long Road in the way that it was sparse and a solo gig, but having songs that hadn't been heard before? What fed into that decision compared to the decision now to have produced songs on a studio album?
Logistics was definitely a big part of it.
Okay.
I like the idea of recording a small intimate gig as well. But yeah, cost and logistics was a big part of it. Just going into a room for a few hours, myself and the piano playing, press record, not having to mix anything at the end of it, and just put the songs out in their raw form. And some of those songs were on Venus and Mars, the preceding EP, and some of those songs will appear on this album as well in a much different form.
Right, okay.
And I'd like to think a much better form, but I think it was good. They were sort of works in progress at that point. And
I suppose you can kind of sketch with broad strokes in a live setting.
Lovely stuff.
I like it, yeah. I bet that would have been more impressive if we just kind of like glossed over that.
Yeah, no, I wanted to highlight my lovely turn of phrase.
Yeah, it's true though, isn't it? You know, you get the kind of bare bones of the song out, and then you get to flesh it out in a studio setting.
Yeah, and I think the songs have developed a lot since then, because I've obviously played them live for 5 years as well, and they've probably...
Live for 5, the next live album from Matthew Frederick.
They've probably changed quite a bit as well. I'm trying to think which songs are on the album. Pink Blossom Snow is one.
Beautiful, it's one of my favourites.
And
which is now that's a black metal song now.
Yeah. Tell Me.
Tell me. Tell you what.
Dubstep.
Okay, perfect. He's always holding out for that version.
So yeah,
since you tried it in Globetrotters that one time.
Turn left onto Chester
I think there might just be those, maybe a third. I mean, it's hard to think when you're
driving.
When you're driving
on the B roads especially.
Following a sat nav. We should have thought this through.
I was going to ask you as well. So
Continue
an obvious
on
question.
Road for 3/4 of a mile.
But I don't want to derail your driving at all.
It's inevitable that I'm going to crash at some
not
point
till the end of the interview, that we'll have to go out in a bang.
Yeah.
You know. I was going to ask you an obvious question, but how does this album differ from your output with Climbing Trees?
I play everything, so that's probably the main difference.
No, I said, how does it differ?
It's probably...
Sorry, guys.
Probably more subtle in places.
Okay. Less of the bombast.
Less bombast, less in your face. Although there are moments where it kicks in a bit as well. There's a lot of contrast throughout the album. I think I was listening to the rough version of it a few days ago, and there are a lot of peaks and troughs in a good way.
Which is the name of your backing band, isn't it?
Oh, we haven't spoken about the backing band.
We'll get onto that.
Yeah.
Please answer the question, Mr. Frederick.
Yeah, it obviously feels more my baby, because there's a lot of compromise in a band, and you kind of everybody's
unnecessarily, right?
Yeah.
Because compromise gets a bit of a tough rap, but but that's a necessary thing in a band.
Yeah, I mean, you want to make an album as a collective, and rather than just one vision. But at the same time,
Unless you're Queen.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's nice then to be able to do completely your own thing with a solo album. I've always said that I feel quite lucky to have the balance between the two. It's good to play on stage with your mates and write songs with your mates and go on and do all the things that you do as part of a band. Trips in the band van, that's
The camaraderie.
yeah, that's probably one of the most enjoyable bits, is the drive to the gigs as well as the gigs themselves. But then with a solo album, you've got complete control, and then the added pressure of it all falling on you, obviously. I like to think fans of Climbing Trees and people who've never heard my stuff before and have stumbled across it for the first time will like it. I think there's enough in there to please current fan, and hopefully enough in there to draw in new people as well. I mean, my main goal is to make an album that I am proud of and that I would listen to myself. And
absolutely, I was going to say that I think it's important to satisfy your own tastes firstly, and I think the extent to which you can do that will probably be the barometer of how much other people will like it, as opposed to trying to please a perceived idea of what other people will like. If you can please yourself, then I think that's the best route to getting other people to enjoy it.
I still think there'll be things in there, if I listen to it in a couple of years' time, that will annoy me. It's never going to be completely perfect. Even if I think it's perfect now, a little further down the line there'll be something that I'll think, I shouldn't have done that.
They're on to us. That's just the nature of the beast, though, right?
It's criminally good, though, I would say.
Criminally good. All right. Are you still going to be able to make it to your album launch on the 4th of April, St John's Church, Canton? So let's talk about the band, the Hindsights, or what did I call it? Frederickian Misery.
Well, I think I quoted
your mail out, but I just thought it would be funny to, I'm Matthew Frederick and this is Frederickian Misery.
Right onto Corporation Road.
But no, the Hindsights. So how does it differ? You mentioned Climbing Trees. How does that differ from having a backing band as a solo artist?
That's a good question, actually, and something I haven't really thought about yet, because although the Hindsights exist, we're yet to be in a room together and practice the songs.
Was there anything to do with the fact it's 2020? It's like a little in-joke.
As in the name?
Turn right onto Corporation
No, I've
Road.
actually...
You formed the Hindsights in 2020?
I formed the Hindsights in my mind probably about 10 years ago.
Oh,
okay. I always wanted that.
In the past?
Yeah. And I always wanted that to be the name of my backing band.
Okay.
And then I sort of forgot about it for a while, and it was... As it got closer to the album launch, and I thought, actually, I do need a backing band now.
I'm interested in the amount of collaboration, if any, there is within the Hindsights, because I'd imagine the starting off point would obviously be you have a clear idea in your head of like roughly where you want the songs to go, and you tell everyone what their part is, but then how much of it is collaborative?
Well, at the moment the songs exist purely in the form that I've created on record.
Okay.
Myself and the rest of the band will be getting in the room together for the first time in the next couple of weeks, so then I imagine the songs will vary slightly from the record.
So I'll ask you again in a couple of weeks.
Partly due to logistics, partly due to the fact that different people will be playing parts that I've written. And
it's like you said earlier about you may have played songs solo on Live at Long Road that then have appeared on this album, and they've gone through an evolution, and then the live setting for this album is just another evolution, isn't it?
Yeah, so I expect these songs to continue to evolve and sound maybe quite different live than they do on record. But I'm really looking forward to that. Actually, it'll be good to see where they can go. I don't think they're not finished. You know, that's not how they'll always sound.
They're never finished, really, are they? Do you think that there's a bit of a challenge in driving whilst being interviewed? Definitely there. You talk about translating them to a live setting, and I think necessarily a lot of stuff will probably have to be changed just so it will actually work in that setting.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, do you feel like you need to kind of retain some kind of integrity with the original recording? I say original recordings, for the recordings on the album, because the reason this springs to mind is because I sold one of my CDs at a gig I was playing once, and I had to almost give a disclaimer because I went so out on a limb with recording on that album. I was like, apart from this song, nothing really sounds like what you've just heard, you know, and like, but you're still happy to buy the album. I think probably through awkwardness.
We've.
But I had to tell her because I couldn't in good conscience go, here, have this, and this is completely a different animal to what you heard live, you know.
We've had to do that in the past with Climbing Trees gigs. We might have played an acoustic gig as a 3-piece and then sold somebody a copy of Orders, which is quite full on, and drums and strings and everything.
Yeah. Brass even.
Or then we've just after Hebron came out, we were sort of playing newer songs which ended up being on the second album, which sounded a lot heavier, and people were buying people were listening to these heavier songs but then buying Hebron, which wasn't quite representative of what we're doing. So I think there'll be less of a variation between Fragments and the live sound than maybe there was with the Climbing Trees stuff. But then I'll still continue to play gigs completely solo, which I imagine will be the biggest variation between the sound of the album and what I'm doing live. I love going to see artists playing completely solo and stripped back, and as we talked about learning, listening to those songs in their rawest form.
In a quarter of a mile at the roundabout, take the fourth exit onto
and I'm looking forward to having the balance between
4591.
playing completely solo and then playing with a band as well.
Absolutely. I think part of that is just the in the live setting you've got that immediacy, haven't you?
I've obviously got no idea how these songs will sound with the band, but knowing how good each of the members are as musicians, I know it's going to sound good. I just don't know exactly how it'll sound.
Yeah, well, that's kind of exciting in its own way, isn't it?
And like you say, if you ask me the same question in 2 weeks, I'll have a better idea. Ask me 2 months from now, it should be sounding pretty solid, and hopefully on April the 4th it'll
coalesce into a glorious soundscape.
I think the plan is to play the album in full as well.
Excellent.
And then play the hits. But whether I'll play the album in its track listing from 1 to 10 in order, or have to shift things around a bit, I'm not sure. Again, it's all logistics, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Absolutely.
Which is quite apt as we're
literally crossing a bridge as we speak.
Into
Where are we now?
We're coming into Newport City Centre.
Oh, there we go.
So we might technically be on A road.
Forgive me for being so English, dear listener, not knowing anywhere where we are in Wales.
Passing a maybe
big old castle that my ancestors probably tried to attack at some point. Apologies. So, what about trees? Anything on the horizon?
We played our first UK gig in 2 years a couple of weeks ago. I say gig, it was for one of our super fans.
Stuart Lee.
It wasn't Stuart Lee, it was an unnamed super fan for his 50th birthday party at his house in just outside Cardiff, and we just played as the three of us, really stripped back with.
Did it feel good to blow the cobwebs off and get back into it?
We played a few gigs a couple of months ago as well in Belgium and Germany. So that was the first time we played for 21 months, I think it was. And that felt good.
So a long time. You could have 2 babies in that time.
Yeah. and
start on a third.
And we did. It was nice to just, as you say, blow the cobwebs away and play the songs again.
Get back to
Plan is to write some new material this year. Whether we'll release anything, I'm not sure. This year, at least, there'll be something further down the line, but we're taking things slowly. We've all got other things on the go as well, so there's no kind of pressure
In 300 yards at the roundabout,
to do anything by a certain
exit onto Malpas Road, A4051.
by a certain date. We'll just kind of keep things ticking along, and as and when it'll happen.
Awesome. Got that to look forward to then. I wanted to ask you, maybe this could be the final question actually. So, speaking for myself, I've always got something next on the go, you know? So even when I'm thinking about the current thing, there's always like 2 or 3 ideas that are next in the pipeline. And they might, one of them might fall to the back burner and then various ones will overtake other ones and stuff. But for you, what have you got in mind after this cycle is out the way?
I've already planned the next 2 releases.
Yeah? A little bit of manoeuvring there. You're doing a very good job, by the way. You know,
I feel like I'm in quite a lot.
they say men can't multitask,
Malpas Road.
but we haven't crashed yet.
So the next release, I think, I'm going to record at home on my little Zoom recorder and release 50 copies on tape and not put it online at all. And just
You're doing a Wu-Tang.
it's going to be a really DIY. It's songs that are a bit more
Keep left
folky,
to stay on
a
Malpas
bit
Road.
more earthy.
In half a
and a
mile
bit more
at the
stripped back.
roundabout, take the first exit onto the M4 slip road.
So I'll do that at some point.
By the way, if you listen to the sat-nav instructions while you're listening to us here, then you could follow the journey in real time.
So that's the plan. That's
So
the plan with that, and then after that, it'll be another proper album in the studio job.
So that implies you've got ample material.
Yeah, I mean they're both sort of half written. I think I know the full track listing for each. It's just a matter of finishing off a few bits and bobs, and then sitting down and recording them. But that'll be a little while away yet, because obviously I'm sort of halfway through the cycle of this album. 2 singles out already. There'll be another one coming out before the album, and then maybe 1 or 2 after as well. So I'm going to drag this out for as long as possible.
What can you tell us about the next single?
It is one of the songs I didn't mention, Leave the Light On. From
Re-envisaged?
Yeah, and it sounds a lot different. Still, the piano's still a feature, but I think it's probably more guitar based now than it was before. Well, definitely more than it was before, because it's just piano.
More than zero
But
guitar.
it sounds a lot closer to what I had in my head at the time that I couldn't replicate live with just the piano.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a bit more. I mean, it's not a 3-minute radio hit by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely more expansive and, yeah, as I say, closer to what I originally had in mind when I wrote the song.
Excellent. So, any final thoughts?
As we leave the B roads and head on to the
Well, that's worked out
motorway.
perfectly, hasn't it?
Yeah. Final thoughts. I've got to the end of the slip road. Oh no.
In a way, we'd all reach the end of the slip road.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
and straight into a lot of
That
traffic.
does not look good. Final thoughts. Why do certain vans have a little sticker on the back that say limited to 70 miles per hour? Almost as if they are either being environmentally friendly, which they're not,
Yeah.
or yes, we're not speeding. Whereas we're technically all limited to 70 miles per hour. So I don't see the point of the sticker.
Not only that, but if it is the speeding thing, then that's flawed as well, because you could speed in any other category.
Exactly. So the sticker makes absolutely no sense, and it's just for sure. I see it on BT vans all the time.
Yeah.
And it's one of my main.
What are they up to?
Yeah, what are they up to? So I'll get around to tweeting them at some point with a picture. I mean, you see certain ones that say limited to 58 miles an hour, and I can sort of see
Yeah.
the point.
Yeah, because that's a vaster swathe of the country that you can't speed in.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
70.
And also, I think around 55 miles per hour is the optimum speed in terms of fuel efficiency.
Oh, okay.
So 58 is pretty close. But 70, not only are you speeding most of the time, you're at the absolute peak of the speed limit, but it's also uneconomic and environmental.
If you know why this is, let us know. Answers on a postcard. You can write to us at Matthew@StayLittleMusic.com. Is that your thing?
That'll do.
That'll do.
It'll get to me.
Yeah. So that's your final thought?
I mean, it's not like
We've got more time
if
now, I
I
think.
had more time, I would have thought of something better.
You don't want to leave a final thought about your album or about your release show or anything?
Mainly the speeding thing.
Okay. In fact, fuck the album.
Yeah, don't buy the album. Tweet BT.
Every tweet to BT is an album sale in Matthew's mind nowadays.
I think it's like streaming though. Maybe 100 tweets equate to one album.
You'll get 12p out of it or
Yeah.
something. You might get more money from that than from streaming, actually.
It all helps.
Do they count BT tweets towards the charts nowadays?
I mean, it's a matter of time, isn't it?
Yeah.
The charts are sugared. The charts are sugared.
They still do charts, do they?
They chart everything these days.
It's still a thing, is it?
It is still a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll never be there in the charts, but I can stand outside and look in,
Yeah.
and that's good enough for me.
And on that note, Matthew Frederick, thank you.
So there you have it. We made it, guys. First episode in the bag, baby. I hope you enjoyed that. And just to recap, Matthew's solo album Fragments should be available now in all good record stores. Do they even have record stores anymore? I haven't had a look out my blinds for a while, so I'm not really sure. But you know, all the streaming services and all that. Check him out on Bandcamp. That's probably the best way to support any independent artist, for that matter. I think that's the one where they get the most proceeds. But yeah, please follow Matthew and follow me at Jamie B Sings on Facebook if you want more of this kind of content and more songs. Obviously, I'm out of my element right now, but I can sure play a song. Anyway, thank you again for joining us, and stay safe, stay well, you know, all the regular stuff, wash your hands, all that jazz. Love you all very much. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.